Hey everybody, it's Strict9 with Strict9 GP, and welcome to another episode of my Out of the Park Baseball 20 playthrough with the Phillies. And we are through the off season, starting spring training in this episode, and it was a really kind of crazy, interesting off season. We'll cover that in this episode, and then we'll probably send through spring training and see how we look and see what the players are going to look like and get a decent idea of what the team's going to look like for this 2040 season. And then I'll probably make my final roster moves offline. I thought I would start off, though, revisiting the Hall of Fame voting because I kind of went through that in the last episode, and I thought some of you guys, if you saw it, might be interested to see how it turned out. There were some pretty big names on the ballot. And as I voted, it kind of went with how I voted. The AI sometimes will outvote you in some cases, but for this year, Justin Bellinger and Kyle Tucker. Bellinger, 96.7%. I think he was pretty much a no-brainer. Great player. Just had a great playthrough for us in this one. Started out with Tampa Bay and played most of his career with Tampa Bay, a three-time MVP award winner and Rookie of the Year. You can see up here at the top all those awards. 82.7 wins above replacement, 654 home runs. In this playthrough particularly, had a great, much better run than Cody Bellinger. But in this next guy, Kyle Tucker, I said, in that last episode, he was kind of on the bubble, but he's the kind of guy that the AI typically votes for in this playthrough or in this game, and had a decent career, two-time MVP award winner that helped him out. But a 310 career batting average, 69.6 wins above replacement. He didn't hit a lot of those Hall of Fame numbers that you look for, but he was a really good player overall for most of his career. Just right outside of that, and it depends on who comes in next year, was Bryce Harper, who this playthrough was not as kind to him. He did draw a lot of walks, and production was there, but that average is really low. And the latter half of his career, he was not the same player at all. But again, and that playthrough where I did with the Cincinnati Reds, which I'm still playing offline. I think I'm probably up to about the same season on that one. He had a much better playthrough, but this one, he put up some Hall of Fame caliber numbers, except for the average, I think, was the big thing in the strikeouts. He'll probably get there, though. I think Devers will get there eventually. He should. He was productive as well. And then Arenado, same way, I feel. He was one home run shy of 500, but he played a lot of years outside Colorado in this playthrough and was very productive late in his career. So I'm hoping that he gets some more votes. But I thought you might like to see how that turned out. You can see here Cody Bellinger before I move on. This is the kind of playthrough he had here. He never won any major awards in this one. Did finish about 500 home runs, but very low average for his career. A lot of strikeouts. Just had a different playthrough. Went with the Cubs when he was 29. Played the majority of the rest of his career with them. Was just not the same kind of player he was when he started out in the sim. Okay, but now that that's out of the way, let's look at the off-season center. That's something I usually like to go to when we're starting spring training. And off-season summary by team. And you're going to see that we are... Where are we? I thought we were middle of the way. No, we're way down here. Negative 7.0. But I really don't think that tells the story. We went into spring or the off season losing our best offensive player from the last few seasons in Josh Gordon, and he was going to be the big, that was going to be the player that I was hoping that I would most be able to replace, if that makes sense. He was the one I was looking to replace in the off season, and my feelings on this game, baseball in general, is probably true, but definitely with Out of the Park baseball, So you have three primary ways of picking up players. You've got the amateur draft, you got player trading, and you got free agents. And then after that, you've got waiver, wire, Rule 5, international free agents. But those top three for me are free agent, draft, and trading. And I think I've probably said it before, but I primarily would rather develop my team from the draft and from my system than anything. Usually I'll trade away some guys, to fill needs I have in the middle of the season. I typically don't get my big type players through trading, although I think Josh Gordon I picked up on a trade, but it's rare that I do that. And then free agency is when it comes to the amateur draft, I'm pretty much drafting the best player available, because especially if these guys are coming out of high school, by the time they make it to the majors, your team is going to have a different makeup, so you can't really predict 5+ years or however long it takes into the future. So I think it's best to always draft the best player available. On the flip side, free agency, I pretty much go in there looking for need, This year it was Josh Gordon. I needed that offense. Big home run guy, big RBI guy, and a first baseman, which, you typically get those kind of numbers from a good first baseman. They're going to give you most of your home runs and production in a lot of cases. But this offseason kind of threw that theory on its head because an interesting thing happened. And it happened in Cincinnati. Oh, and I was looking at Cincinnati. Philadelphia, I'm sorry, we were middle of the road. Gotta get this so confused. So we were middle of the road on this one. -1.5 replacement. And again, I still don't think that shows the whole story, and that was mainly because of Josh Gordon. But Cincinnati, who made the World Series and won it two or 3 years ago, they're a small market team. I know from playing in that other playthrough. It's tough to really keep your key players once they've developed and once they get those big contracts. You really you're struggling to keep it. Like in the real life Cincinnati Reds with Joey Votto, for instance, right now, you have a big player. It's about the only player that you can really give that kind of contract to. And I guess it hit them this off season, and they went into seller mode. And I played around with some trading and kept noticing that this guy, Pete Parker, and he wasn't the only one. Pete Parker and a few other good players on that Reds team were being thrown out there for trade. And so I went with this guy. And I went with him. I traded away a starting pitcher that I have in AAA who would probably develop into a mid-rotation starter. I just don't have room for him. But he's, minor league contract still. I don't even know if I've called him up yet, so he's got plenty of time left. It was not that bad of a move for Cincinnati to make if they needed to get rid of salary. But this guy, everything about him looks great. When he first came on the market a few years ago when Cincinnati picked him up, I was hoping to get him. I just didn't have the salary room. He's got the great personality rating you look for, a fan favorite. He's got an Ironman injury-prone rating. He's had 33, 32 or above in starts since 2032. And his contract, $21.8 million. I did pick up McAfee last offseason. He's another big starter for me. They're similar in ratings, but McAfee is actually listed as fragile under injury proneness. So that kind of went into my thinking. I don't want to be stuck having to go with another adequate pitching staff if McAfee gets injured. So this way, I've got two really number one starters, ace-type starters on this team now. And his contract runs for several more years. There's no options in there, so hopefully he'll be able to produce at his level for the next 4 seasons. It might buy me up a little bit having both these guys. McAfee is $21 million now, and I think I've got him for 3 more seasons. This guy's $21.8. That's a lot to invest, but he has been really solid. I use that word a lot, I know, but it's just in almost every category. On some bad San Diego teams, he was good. On some good Cincinnati teams, he was great. And I'm hoping that I get this kind of production, 4.9 wins above replacement the last 2 seasons. I would be really happy to get that kind of production. And I think with McAfee, that's a 1-2 punch that's really going to help me out. But in terms of finding a replacement, that kind of threw a wrench in there. I didn't really have the money now left to get a really superstar stud type first baseman. So I picked up Josh Tupper, a 3-star guy, adequate defense. He has 17 home run power. He had 30 last year, 100 plus RBIs, and really a low average, which I'm hoping that he'll improve on that. Got him for little or nothing, really, $3.6 million, 3 years with a player option. Hopefully he'll find a way into the lineup. And then I picked up this guy. Honestly, he's listed as a left fielder. He's a 2.5-star guy. Got him for little or nothing, but he's primarily a left fielder. But Aguirre has some platoon issues against lefties, and so I'm probably going to be playing this guy in against lefties because he's rated really highly on this 20 scale. He's 13 contact, gap power, 17 eye, and has some good speed, good defense at really either corner or outfield. Could even play center if I need him. So that's a good pickup, I think. And I did trade away Portillo. I'm going with Sean Riggs. I think he's got to step up and be the guy I need. And then another big free agent signing. At least I hope it's going to be a big free agent signing. This guy was an international free agent from Cuba. Another good gap power and power guy. OSA doesn't like him as much. I mean, he's rated decent defensively at third, but my scout thinks he's going to be really good. In the green or above in all the ratings for my scout. And I got him for under $10 million, 4 years with an option. Hopefully he'll turn out. So all in all, I think I had a good offseason. That Parker thing, that pickup is just going to be, I think, huge if he gives me that kind of season that he's usually going to give me. In terms of who I lost, I mean, outside of Gordon, I don't even really think I lost anyone that's going to be valuable to this team. Mayhew could be a good fifth starter still, but at this point, I really don't need him. And that's the big thing going into the spring training is how this pitching staff is going to shape up because, as I mentioned too last episode, I've got this guy, Zach Thompson, who I drafted just in the 8th round. He wasn't even a high draft pick, but he has developed better than you can really hope for in the minors. My scout thinks he's a 2.5 star right now, potential 5. All of his ratings are good. OSA, they don't think he's quite ready for the majors, but they have him at 5-star potential as well. My goal was to, even without picking up Parker, before I picked up Parker, my goal was to let this guy start, unless he just really tanks it or gets injured, hopefully not, in spring training, and just let him pitch through his first year and see if he can develop even further being in the majors, see him major league pitching. But what that does, now that I picked up Parker, it really makes one of these guys, I don't think Dion's going to be the odd man out. I still think he's good enough to be in the rotation. But I think Contreras, as much as I like this guy, he could be the odd man out. And it could be that he's coming off 14 wins last year. Really good production from him. Could be I'm going to have to move him to the bullpen, maybe even trade him if I've got room when spring training is over, because the big dilemma, and this happens every time I do this, when I just stock up on either too much pitching or too much batting, I'm going to have some guys that I'm potentially either going to have to trade away when spring training's over, or I'm going to have to lose them in waivers, and I don't want to do that. You get to the bottom of this rotation or bullpen, Mendoza's solid. He's locked in there at closing. Joe Scott at setup. I signed Morrison again. I think he's still good enough to find a spot, especially against lefties. Either setup or, which is what I've got him in spring training. Mannion, I think, is going to make it. But, Alvarado, I'd like to keep up. I'd like to keep Kondishera, even though he was shaky in the playoffs. I'd like to keep Ducluit. So there's going to be some guys who are going to have to be potentially traded away or lose to waivers when the spring training's over. But we'll just see how – we'll have to see how they perform first off. But then on the lineup side, I'm going to be doing some platooning a little bit here, Aguirre and Millspaw. See if one of those guys really takes off. I'm betting the farm on Riggs this year. I just think last year had to be an aberration when he came over to us. He was, having on pace for 5-6 wins above replacement when he was with San Diego. His average just tanked when he came over to us. I really think he's going to get that back in a good number. Big questions, I think, might be, I guess how well Vega handles lefties. I don't know if I wind up having to platoon a little bit, but the outfield, how well Bond does. I've got Benefield, who is a former first-round draft pick. He got called up to AAA in the offseason. I still think he needs to develop a little bit, but his contact and gap power and speed and defense, those are good numbers. He could potentially be a starter in a few more years. But I got a lot of players here as well. I got a guy like Dante Eubanks who could be somebody I can trade. He's really well liked by OSA and should be starting. In all honesty, he should be starting for some team in the majors, but Gutierrez just took off last year, 4-star player now, and it's possible. I've got Koopman for one more year. I don't think I'll re-sign Koopman because he's just really starting to make a whole lot of money. So it could be that I move Gutierrez over to second next year and then put Eubanks is that starting shortstop I'd like, or he could be second as well. He's rated better at second. So I'd like to keep him. Hope I don't have to lose him. Option years, he's out of option years. So I'm going to have to, more than likely, he's going to have to stay up in a backup role this year, or I'm going to have to trade him. And that's something I'm not really wanting to do either. Eric Berga, former second-round pick, he's starting to hit right now. He got the call up to AAA. He's another one. If he develops, he's just 23. He could still make a run and be a potential starter at second. So everything's looking good right now in this team, and I just hope injuries stay away, and that strategy, if you want to call it strategy, of picking up another solid number one pitcher is going to be the thing that gets us back into the playoffs. But we're going to go ahead and sim through, see how spring training turns out. Still getting some trade proposals here, and it's a pitcher and decent one, but I really like Scott. I think this guy, he still has years left. He could be a long-term, at least maybe 5 year or so, setup guy for me. So I'm going to reject that trade. So far, slow start. They got the trade proposal, and it's another pitcher. I don't know why they want to keep giving me pitchers. Mannion, he wants to be in the starting rotation, and he probably could. I mean, a 3-star starting pitcher. That's crazy. It's like things have been flipped around. He was great in the minors, actually, as a starter last year. Things have just been flipped around in this playthrough. Typically, I have a tough time with starting pitching. It's been the hardest thing to get. Now I've just got all these pitchers. He could be somebody I can trade away for some offensive help if I need it after spring training. Still getting some starting pitchers offered, but I'm not really going to go for that. We're off to a slow start, though. I think it's 1-3, now 2-3. I'm not too worried about how we look in spring training. I just don't want to lose anybody. And right away, we're losing a guy that I picked up as a potential backup catcher, and I was really hoping that he would make it because he's got a little bit better defense. I'm slim at catching when you get past Norman. If Norman doesn't stay healthy, I'm in trouble. And I think I had, yes, a Boatwright's going to have to be starting now. That could potentially be a bigger blow than I want to admit, honestly. Another trade proposal, a catcher. Can't do that because he's probably going to be wanting to start. Norman's got a lock on that starting role right now. As long as his offense continues to develop, I'd like to see him developed a little bit more. Atlanta loses a big guy for 5 to 6 months. The guy they picked up in the offseason, I'm sure he was going to be a starter for him, so that could hurt them. And more trade proposals coming in. Another catcher, Soto. Wow, this guy's got great ratings. But let's see. He's making a little bit more money he's making a lot more money than Ian Norman. But Ian Norman's a 5-star pitcher or catcher. Sorry, I don't want to mess with that too much right now. So I'm gonna reject that. Although it was another one wanting Mannion, so he's got some value in this league right now. All right, so we're finally above 500 for the spring. 6-5 might be a good time to look and see what we're doing here. Take a look at that pitching staff. The big thing I'm interested really right now is how well Thompson's going to do. He's only got 1 start under his belt. He's in that 5th spot. I want it to be strict right now, strict order. I should have already turned that off. But Barbarossa, he did have a good year for me last year. I don't like his movement rating. He could be somebody that I can trade. It could wind up being. I know Hannibal's not going to make it. He's probably at most going to make it. I like the guy. He's probably at most going to be somewhere in the bullpen. But it's possible that it could be Contreras and Barbarossa competing for that last spot if Thompson looks okay. And then the bullpen, a few guys not looking too good. Kirtley, don't expect him to make it, even though he's in the green in all his ratings. He's just a 2-pitch pitcher. Now on the lineup side, Ian Norman struggling a little bit. Tupper, no home runs yet, so I'm hoping to see more from him. Koopman not having a great one. Vega though looks really good. Gutierrez looking good. Riggs on fire, hitting 480, 2 homers, 10 RBIs. Steve Bond, he's got a vesting. No, he's a player opt-out. I thought I signed him for a vesting. So he's more than likely going to stay again because I think he's a 2.5-star player. He's not going to have a whole lot of value on the free agent market, but I hope that he has a better season than last year. All right, so let's hope we can keep winning. More than anything, let's hope we can stay healthy. And this is a different trade proposal for Gutierrez, another pitcher that he's not even in the same class, really. And we're back losing again, 6-8, 7-8, I guess 8-8. Still some free agents out there. Mike Morris, 3-star third baseman with a lot of power. He's still getting signed. I just don't think I need anyone right now, barring injuries. Jerry Henson, he was a decent first baseman. Might have been a better first baseman than who I went with, but I couldn't afford to wait too long. And more than likely, what happened with him is he just didn't get signed early enough. So now it's spring, and there's still some first basemen left there, but I'm going to stay with what I got for now. And we're going to be winding down pretty soon. First injury of spring, but it's a backup. So we're over 500 now. 9-9. We're just hanging around the middle, looks like. San Diego lost Chris Britton. Looks like he might have been their closer. All right, so we're got just a few more games left. Joe Scott injured, but just for a week. I can deal with that at this point. So let's see what we got left. Opening day's coming up pretty soon, but in terms of coverage, spring coverage, we are 11-11. Atlanta 13-10, leading the way in the East. Let's get through this week. Hopefully, we can finish with a better than 500 record. Another trade proposal. This time for Ian Norman. Another pretty incredible pitcher, but he's fragile. I'll reject that one. And we're 12-14. I don't think we're going to have a winning spring. All right, so another proposal here. Jim Williamson for Ken Dion. Both these guys about the same age. Oh, geez. He hasn't played in the majors yet, but this is tricky. This is what you have to watch out for. This rating 3 overall, 4 potential. This is as a reliever, and I can't change because I don't own this guy. I can't change the status over to starting pitcher to see if he would hold on to those ratings as a starter. So you can't really. It's not like for like. Ken Dion, even though his movement's pretty bad, I still think he's a better value as a starting pitcher. So I'm going to reject that one. And now we got one more game left in the spring. Cincinnati, we win. I wonder if Parker stayed. That'd be interesting to see if Parker was the pitcher in this one. It wasn't Barbarossa. And Barbarossa looks like he came through and had a better rest of the spring than what he was looking when I last looked at him. All right, so spring coverage. I think that's 13-15. Not that great. We are going to have a lot of players, though. 38 on the roster, and you have room for 60, but I almost never get close to 40. It's rare that I even get over 35. So there's going to be some guys here that are going to have to be sent down. Kirtley, oh man, he's out of option years. But I'm gonna risk him. I can't imagine a team really picking him up. He's been primarily in the minors. He's 28 years old. If I had to lose him, I could lose him. Lions, he's got some upside, but he's never pitched above AA. I think he's safe to demote, and he is. Ings is a guy who looked really incredible in AAA last year. And option years, he's got 1, so I can sit him down. But let's take a look and see how the pitching was this spring. So Hannibal looked really bad, and I'm not thinking he's got any option years, so I may have to try to trade Hannibal if I can't find room for him. And Thompson did look good. Contreras did look good. Oh man, that one's just, it's hard to figure out what I need to do. Alvarado has 1 option year left, and he's ready more than likely, but he's just 2 pitches. And he had a terrible spring. My scout thinks he's a middle innings reliever, so I'm probably going to let him go back. Pan has amazing stuff. He's got 2 option years left. I'm gonna let him go back as well. Eventually, he might be. I'm just so loaded in pitching. I can't believe it. I mean, this guy, 3.5 stars from OSA, he would be good trade bait. He probably would wind up being a closer for some team. Josh Dean, another guy, hasn't pitched above rating, so I think he's 25 years old. Is he ready for the majors? Yeah. I don't like his movement, but I can safely send him down and not lose him. All right, so I like to go with 12 pitchers. So where does that leave me? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 15. I got to get 3 guys down or lose them. And so Alvarado, he's got room to go down. Just one more option year left. He's going to go, and I think hopefully he'll be ready for a call up if I need him. Now Hannibal, I'm going to see what trade option or offers come up for him. And I should probably look at how the offense is before I do this. And one of the things that have to take into account too when you do these trade offers and you see a lot of pitchers offered back, it could just be that we're in that cycle. I think this game, and it might be like, you could probably say that in the majors to a certain extent too. You go through cycles where the pitching is basically, in terms of the in this game, it would be in terms of the ratings and I guess the performances. It's kind of weighted towards pitching. You have more good above average pitchers than you do above average batters. So pitching may not be as valuable right now for trades and in general as offense, because I send Hannibal out there. I'm getting some pretty decent offers back. A 3-star starter. This guy would really be a mid-rotation starter based on those ratings at just about any team, even though his stats aren't that great. Gagne, fragile, but yeah, you could put him in a lot of places. He looked really good for Arizona in relief last year. Here's a right fielder. Don't like his personality ratings all that much. He could probably be a good backup. But I'm getting some good offers here. Here's a guy. How many contract? He's got 1 option year left. But he's just a 2-star from OSA. Man, a lot of decisions here. Penfield, a good reliever. This guy, he's wanting to be in the starting lineup. Whew. All right, so I'm getting some good offers here. Rathke, I'd much rather have someone who could be a good backup, say outfielder, although I don't really need that. So, if I get somebody who's got some life left in terms of option years so that I can send them to AAA this year and have them there if I need them for call-up, that's more than likely what I'm going to have to do. Man, this is a guy, if his personality was better. He's been the closer for Chicago for the last 3 years. Numbers aren't that great, but his individual ratings are very good. All right, so I'm going to have to do that offline. I don't want to spend too much time on that, but that's going to get us down in terms of pitching. We've got to move 2 guys. Ings, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ings is probably going to be the other guy. He does have 1 option year left. So it's safe, I think, to send him down. And then I'm just going to have to trade away Hannibal. I think that's the only thing I'm going to have to be able to do there. But the other thing is, what am I going to do for that 5th spot? I could potentially give Thompson, he's got plenty of option years left, 3. I could give him time in AAA and ride it out with Hannibal a little bit longer, because I do think, it's such a toss-up between the spring that Thompson and Contreras had. I think Contreras has value as a starter, even though he's 2.5 stars right now. I don't really want to give up on him either. Barbarossa, I mean, these guys, the dilemma of I don't want to trade him away because of the salary right now and the options that I still have with him. So I'm going to have to decide which pitcher gets it, but I think it's probably going to be Hannibal that I trade away, and I'll probably move Contreras at least for the start of the season, and he's not going to like it, but I'll probably move him into a long relief and see how that goes. And then on the lineup side, Tupper did turn it on at the end of the spring. Wound up with 4 home runs, 10 RBIs, 258 average. I can live with that. I hope he gets better though with strikeouts, but just have to struggle through that. Berga, he's not ready and he's got plenty of option years, so he's definitely going to. And same with Romero. I think Romero is a good bat to have off the bench, and he's been at AAA now. He may not have any options. He's got 2 option years left. Eubanks, that's the one that I got to decide what to do with. And then down here, Sellers. I want to keep Sellers for his defense, but his offense is not that great. Tuck, Villalobos, he's the same deal. He's eventually he may wind up back in Philadelphia as a backup player, but he's safe to demote right now. Benefield is safe to demote, but he had a good spring. So I'm probably going to have to go with Hobbs. Offensively, he's not that great. Sellers or Tuck in the outfield, and I may have to really get rid of one of these guys. So I've got to whittle this one down to 13 position players. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I got to move 3. Lockhart, I can't move because of his salary. If I could trade him, I would. Try to trade him in the offseason. I just could not do it. He will not take a demotion. He's valuable in that he can play 4 positions. He can play all 4 infield positions. So don't necessarily want to get rid of him. He even kind of looked, he wants to be in the starting lineup. He even looked kind of good in the postseason, if I'm remembering right. But Millspaw had a really tough spring, but I think ratings-wise, he's just a better player than Hobbs, Sellers, or Tuck. But I gotta move 3 guys down, and yeah, I just don't know who to do right now. So I'm gonna have to debate that offline. But you can see these are good dilemmas to have. And I didn't highlight it, but Sean Riggs had an incredible spring. 370 average, 12 walks, 478 on base percentage, 7 stolen bases. I mean, he even has speed. This guy's a complete player. I'm not sure what happened to him last season when he joined us, but I think he is going to be a all-star type player if he plays up to potential, which, he has been an all-star a couple times, but I think he's much better than what his numbers show. And spring was awesome. 5 home runs, 16 RBIs, OPS of 1.237, incredible. But I've got a lot of decisions to make, but like I was saying, it's a good dilemma to have. And I went into last season, if you've been following this series, we've had a big playoff drought. We've had a big overall in this series, which I started in the 2017 season, a few versions of Out of the Park Baseball ago. This has been a tough challenge to even get into the playoffs and make it to the World Series and win the World Series. But I went into last season feeling good about this team. We wound up winning the division. I know spring was not that solid. It wasn't that great record-wise, but I might feel better about this team going into the 2040 season than I did about the one last year. I just think Parker just fell into my lap, and that was just such a good pickup. And I think he's in the long run, if he stays healthy, does what he typically does, I'm not so sure he's more valuable than a guy like, than losing a guy like Josh Gordon, because I think you can get close to making up those kind of the production I lost from Gordon. I think I can get close to making that up. It's hard to make up a performance of pitching performance like you usually get from Pete Parker. And I love the name too, by the way. But that's going to be it for this episode. I'll finish up setting up the team offline. I hope you guys are excited for the next season. Come back. Next episode, we'll get started right out of the gate. I think we might have a chance to even repeat. I mean, knock on wood. That's something that hasn't happened. We have never. It's embarrassing almost to show this record. We've never even repeated in the playoffs. That's how tough this playthrough's been. So this could be something good that we've got going here. I hope it is. And I hope you guys are still enjoying the series. I'm going to try to keep going with it until I win that World Series, and then we'll see what else is out there. But as always, thanks for watching, liking, subscribing, and I will see you next episode.